Hi guys, welcome to another video. This is the 4F that we rebuilt in a previous video, so if you haven't seen that, go and have a look, because that will show you how to take it apart and put it back together, which I'm not going to show you in this video. What I'm going to show you is the difference between that noise you just heard, which is probably coming from the controller, to be honest. Well, definitely coming from the controller. It sends a PWM signal to the motor and it vibrates it. That's what that noise is. And the shell acts as an amplifier. If you put it on a direct battery, you won't get that noise. Anyway, we're going to fit a Cordless motor in there and a TTS sound module in the back. I'm going to use a J36 sound module because it's a cheapy one, and the J36 is a similar wheel arrangement to this loco. Probably doesn't sound, the same as this loco would in real life, but I'm okay with that. And there's a lot of choices you have to make when you're modelling, and this is one of them. I'm going to put a J36 in this because A, I can, and B, I want to, and C, it's cheaper, and D, I could go on. It's so I can have DCC control on the train, control the Cordless motor, which I know will sync, hopefully, well, it should sync pretty well with the sound module from Hornby. The tender is big enough for, I think, the board and a speaker, and to be honest, this thing was always going to get destined for sound. The reason as well for adding a Cordless motor, in my case, is this motor, I've rebuilt it, as I have done about 100 locos now, and the plastic cradle that goes around this motor warps when the motor heats up, or it's running cool, or I don't know, it's a hot day. It's an inconsistent running loco and I'm not happy with it, so I'm gonna make it happy. Make me happy. So without further ado, I'll take the tender apart, we'll take the loco apart, and basically I'm just going to fit the bits in there. Right, so here we are, here's the component parts. I've got a J36 sound decoder from Hornby. Not endorsed yet, hopefully soon, because they're getting expensive. But this is the cheapest way of getting sound in a loco, in N-Gage, I think, if you can fit the bits in there. So that. We've also got this Cordless motor. I'll put the dimensions in the description box. This one is a 13,500 RPM, as you can see there. And this worm gear, this came out of a Ginty, because I was mecking around putting motors in a Ginty. And basically it's got some brass, it's got a bit of brass tubing just put in the end, and hopefully you can just see that there, it's just poking out, which fits nicely on these motors. Now I will put a dot of super glue on this when I push it on, but I'm not going to do that just yet. What I need to do, now I wouldn't recommend maybe using this motor, I'd use maybe this type of motor, but maybe just a single output shaft, because what I'm going to do now is just literally cut this off with a pair of pliers, being careful not to screw up the terminals on the motor or bend the shaft itself. Now I am just guessing at this point in this video, because I haven't done this yet, that this is actually going to fit in the body of the loco. I suspect it will. Okay, so what I've done is I fitted my usual Cordless motor in here. Now if you're doing this, you want it to move relatively easily and be quite free to turn. That's the trick. And also you don't really want the motor to come into contact with the track at all, really, which means not really coming into contact with any metal bits. In a way, because I'm holding it in with super glue, it isolates it from the track. So it's all these things you just got to be wary of. This is the first test. It should be pretty good, hopefully, fingers crossed. This is just 3 volts. Can't run it any slower than that, but I think it's looking pretty promising. And I just wanted to hear if there was any, in fact actually, I wanted to hear if there was any gnarly noises. But I'm just going to whack it on 12 volts. I've just got a battery here next to me, that's what I'm using. It's going to be different. There's no grease. So, it seems pretty happy. And that's really just to make sure that everything's meshing properly. So now what I'll do is I'll come in with my super glue. What I might do actually, yeah, what I might do is just try and remove the spring clamp in there, and because I was a bit lazy leaving the bushing in there that holds the brush. Now you can use a smaller motor, as I was considering, but actually the cordless motor here has got a lot more torque than that little thing does, and the torque's quite important. It's probably similar torque to the Graham Farish motor, except for the startup of these cordless motors is much smoother than it is on the Graham Farish motor that was in this one. Normally Graham Farish motors are pretty good. Anyway, what we're going to do next, I think, I'm really apprehensive. I don't want to take the wheels off. However, I think I'm going to in this case, or not. Oh, I'm still undecided. Now, if you look through there, I'll try and get it. Let's try and get a little gap. The motor's not actually touching any of that. It's just super glued at the front here. What I might do, now this is definitely a bodge, okay? But if I leave the spring clamp there, that means I can solder to that pickup for the decoder. The screw will go through this front one here to a washer, and I can solder to that one. So then we've got a track pickup, and then we've got 2 motor outputs there for our decoder as well. So I'm going to do is really, don't hate me, I'm literally just going to super glue the void a little bit, but being careful not to get it in the wheels. Now I use an activator for my super glue, which is oddly enough super glue activator made by Sudol, really good stuff that, and basically it just goes off instantly. Anyway, we shall continue and I'll come back in a minute. Right, we're back. All I've done basically is just put more super glue in there so that the motor is actually not touching the chassis at all. It's literally just got super glue isolating it. It's not pretty by any means, and what I've been careful of is to get everything basically kind of in the middle. You got to get your meshing right. This is not the way to do it, but this is the way that works, and actually quite well. If it's not right, you just crack off the super glue and give it another go. So what I've just done is I just offered the shell up, and there you go. That's where she lives, and it's not actually going to touch the shell either once it's screwed in. And if I was worried about that as well, you could put a bit of tape around the motor if you wanted to. But what I quite like is that yeah, you don't see what you used to see. You do see a motor, but there's enough gap there for me to add a firebox light later if I want to. And also, looking inside, there's quite a bit of space down there. Once this goes in, potentially you could add probably half the Stay Alive in there and the other half in the tender, or you know, have a bit of a gap. So I think that's what we're going with. I'm not going to do any wires on this just yet. What I'm going to do is start messing around with the tender. So I've put the motor to one side now. It runs. So this literally just lifts off. I didn't realise that. I was taking all the screws out and things. I was like, oh, it just comes off. And I'm not sure what to do on this either, actually. What's quite handy on the Graham Farish, like there's a hole there. I can only imagine that's literally for the wires to come through from a decoder, which this thing's never had. I'm really tempted. I'm worried about this screw, so that's definitely getting cut down to the point where it's below the plastic, so there's no metal pieces in here. But I'm thinking I really need to get the decoder out and really see what space we've got, because I think the decoder can live sort of along the bottom here, and then the speaker might even be able to go on the end here. I've got the 4 wires coming out the front. Now normally I would change those wires for thinner gauge wires, so it's less obvious something's going to the loco. I'm not worried too much about that yet, but the decoder's sitting pretty good down there, and the speaker there, I haven't tested it yet to see if it works. I hope it still does, but all I've essentially done is just filed each end down really carefully, and I actually broke one trying to do this. I slipped and it broke. So this is the downside of mucking around, is like you kind of might break something, and I'm being very careful with the chip, but it would be very easy to break the chip as well. So be very careful with everything as much as I can. But it looks like that's what we've got. So I'm going to wire up that speaker, and I have tried the chassis on, and that screw, I'm going to cut it down, and I'm also going to cut this little nub of plastic down as well. Scrap that. No, what I'm going to do, take the screw out, cut the screw down, so the screw is just below that plastic. I'm just going to use pliers. You could file it down if you wanted to. I'm not going to. That should go on there then. I just don't want a screw going into what will effectively be that black dot on the chipboard, which says 28, which is effectively what all the sound files are on, because that wouldn't be a good day. So we've got the 4 wires coming out. I'm going to do that, put that back on there. The wires just need soldering to the speaker, because I really need to see if I've screwed the speaker up, then I'm going to have to take it out and do it again, and maybe reevaluate what we're going to do. But first things first, get that on there, because at the moment that is actually fouling that black dot, and then see what we got. So I'll come back in a second. Okay, ignore the wires poking at the bottom. It's just that I could see that the tender top wasn't going to actually fit. And literally it is exactly how I've just showed you, except I just fed the wires at the bottom. I'll solder them onto the speaker next because it works. Ta-da! Okay, so because I've removed the existing motor, I need that screw to be in and stay in. That's just a 2mm washer to bridge the gap on the top of this chassis. So that, if I can get it started. So basically the nut doesn't go down the bore hole that's on the top side of that chassis. And also, now what I did on my Ginty was actually soldered a wire through this hole to the pickup, which you could also do. It's just I'm really trying to avoid having to take any of the bottom of this loco apart, because if you've taken a steam loco apart, you'll know that it's quite tricky with the pickups. So I'm doing this in a lazy way. So that'll be one side of our track, and then this will be the other side of our track, this contact here. Now that's not getting used anymore, but I'm going to be using it for the pickup. So what I might do is just solder them all this side. I'm just going to scratch this up a little bit so that solder will start nicely on it. Wow. Not my best moment of soldering. I tell you what, the gun's soldering irons set at the wrong temperature, that's why. As you saw there, we've got the speaker wired up, so the next thing really is to just wire up all this stuff. And put a shell on, program it, or put it on a programming track, and go from there. Generally speaking, if you're like looking at this video thinking, crikey, what's he at there? How does he know how to do that? Just trial and error. As you saw, I've messed up a speaker. That's what we want to see. It's on there. Now this is the next bit. Yeah, it's just trial and error. All this stuff. Better going onto the nut if it will do it. Might have to hold it on there for a little bit for the heat to build up for it to jump and solder. Is it gonna? Yes, it is. Excellent. The reason I'm soldering to the nut and not the screw is so that we can still remove the screw if we have to. Now I'll do the terminals. So this is called, I guess this is called tinning. So I'm just getting the surfaces ready. There we go. Clean soldering iron. Right, so all our lovely little wires have got to come through the loco, that part of it. I'm not sure which way is best. So, right, so our black wire is a rail, the red wire is a rail, so they have to be the longer wires. The motor wires I might actually do in a minute. So as long as we've got black and red. Black and red. And obviously you'd refer to the wiring diagram of your decoder or whatever you're using. And to be honest with you, I would probably use different wire because this is quite thick gauge wire, as I mentioned before. I'm only saying that because the tender has to kind of flex around the track, and if you've got loads of wires going from it to the loco, chances are it's not going to be as free as you might like. I'll tell you what, actually, what we've got there, we'll cut them down just a little bit. I was going to leave them, but... So that's going to go to the motor. I probably need to get some new cutters as well, they're a bit naff. Yeah. It's all guesstimation on my half, yeah. So I'm just going to tease the wire. So I'm tinning the wire. Different wires do different things. I know with this wire, if I put heat next to it, it basically retreats down the wire. So, and then if I've got a bit of solder on there as well, it just jumps on and it pre-tins the wire, and it's just the end of the wire, because sometimes you get quite a lot of the wire exposed. That's that one. There's our red wire. It's hiding in here. Oh no! Let's put a bit more solder on there. I'm going to just do it with my finger. There we go. Hopefully you saw that. It's a little... Because the nut is such a big thing to heat up, I've got heat into that, and as soon as I just dotted the wire on it and removed the soldering iron, and it just worked. So the next one, anyway, is our pickup. I'm tempted. You got somewhat of a creator's license doing all this, because you can do it however you want. That's the other pickup. So actually, as it is here, I could probably just plug it all in and see what we got. But the motor wouldn't work. Plonk that in. Now, it would be a good idea to put Kapton tape around the motor so it doesn't short on the shell, which is die cast. I'm not overly worried about that just yet. One wire. Whew. And I think the second one. So diddy. I think we got it. I think we got it. And there you go. So the 2 wires are on the motor, and the other 2 are going to the track pickup. And I'm going to screw that on there. Holy smokes. It's only about 7:30. Oops, a daisy. it's only about 7:30 and I've basically just fitted sound to a train. Wow, that was super quick. But I tell you what, it's obviously it's not pretty there with the wires, but they can go black, and I'll just show you here actually. My intention is to move it around somewhere. Let's just go roughly in the middle, I guess. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some little people in this, so they can somewhat hide the wires with their bodies. I might even put some shovels and things in the way of the wires. There we go, that's what you're seeing. Oh man, that's cool. Let's try it. I'll just power up the PC because I'm running it off the PC. If this works, I'm gonna, because wow. Bear in mind, it took me like a day to put lights in the Britannia. Right, yeah, I'll just set the track up and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, I've just done, you might have seen this in the video. Please don't do this. This is a bad idea. So I have, by accident, soldered on this pickup here, right? Now the screw goes through from the bottom pickup, goes through the top with a metal washer, and is effectively now the same side of the track as that. So I couldn't even program it just a minute ago. What I need to do here is, thankfully I soldered to the nut, is remove the metal washer and put something that's isolating there because it's shorting out. So I'll just remedy this and we'll be back in a second. Okay, so I'm back and I'll zoom in here. There's a bit of plastic now between the nut and the chassis, and that should be, fingers crossed, good. Okay, I've programmed the loco, so let's start her up. So that's a good start. I have messed with some of the settings to try and get it running a bit better. What we got? A whistle? Let's go for a whistle. Yeah. Okay, so it works alright. Now it's just a tuning phase. I think, what was I going to do? It sounds a bit tinny. That might be because I have not put a box on the back of that speaker. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take this off and have a play around with the speaker and see if I can get the sound any better, because I haven't put a cap on the back of it. I think it's not allowing the sound to bounce properly, so I might even just put super glue around it to make a seal, and we'll be back in a shortly. So what you've just saw there will compare to the video which is coming up next. Okay, so we're back. What I've done is I've just put some super glue around the ends of the speaker to trap the noise into the speaker. There are little holes in it, so you've got to basically block the end of the face of the speaker. Probably easier if I show you. That's the side you'll see. That is what moves up and down and makes the noise. However, the sound comes out the sides. So if there's a gap anywhere else, the sound doesn't really propagate as good as it could. So here we go. I'm going to start her up and see if you can tell the difference. I've not messed with any settings. This is just me turning it on. To me, that sounds a bit more, well, louder actually. Very loud. just run it up like we did before. Oh dear. And that's why you have a stay alive. That sounds much better. In fact, I think the only thing really I need to do here now is set up accelerations and have a play with it. Much louder. And here's an idea of the crawl. Sorry about the shaky camera, I'm trying to do a few things. Let's see how slow we can get this going. Now this is a pretty basic tune that I've put on. I'll try and do this so you can see it better. Much better, isn't it? Going as slow. Oh, that's going as slow as I could. I think it's lost contact. Yeah, there you go. It's a bit better than what we had, isn't it? So, in this case, win for Coreless. Much quieter too, actually. There's no grease on it. Although I should probably put some on it. Just wait for it to come round. I think I might have a play of it now, and then we'll just put some coaches on it. Seems pretty happy. I mean, it's relatively quiet there, with no music on, no sound on. Yeah, so let's have a play. Wow, what a beaut. It runs better than I thought it would, considering what I just bodged together. So the super glue worked well on that cordless motor. The wires I will fiddle around with a bit more, but it has no issues pulling those 3 carriages, and it runs lovely and smoothly. Sound quality is pretty good actually. It's pretty loud. All I would say is I think maybe this J36 sound chip was probably came before the Britannia in terms of Hornby. I think this was probably released like earlier on, I guess, because the sound quality doesn't sound as good, and it is going through. I know it's a dainty little speaker. I mean, it's loud, which you can adjust all the sound volumes, but other than that, I mean, it sounds brilliant. The only gripe I have is when you go above like 0.5% throttle, the sound just becomes weird sounding. But I'm not planning to go full chat with this everywhere. This is literally muck around in a fiddle yard and just go slow. That's why I built it, to crawl really. So I've got some sounds now to show my granddad, and the time is 9:20, so that's done.
One into the side with this hazard on, and then he stopped us, but as 2 motorbikes come up between us, and the hand come out of the so he raised them on because they could get past easy. But then
Well guys, that concludes today's video. I hope to see you in the next one. But today's been a great day. Just come back from my granddad's. We've had a great running session with this. I've literally just taken the photo for the thumbnail for the video. That's why this stuff's here. But yeah, it was good. Good little running session. What I have realised though is on the Britannia that you saw in the video and this 4F, which runs actually surprisingly good without a stay alive, is that really, if you've got a sound loco, you should probably add a stay alive into your locos. So sometime in the future I will be adding a stay alive to this loco, and I will be adding one to the Britannia as well. I'm not too sure how just yet. I'd like to put like a firebox LED in this one as well, maybe a rear red light on the back of the tender that I can turn on and off, so that might be a cab light maybe, I don't know, and a forward running light. But I have learned that the different lights positions on the front relate to what the loco is pulling, so I'll take the front with a pinch of salt really. I'm not terribly worried about lights on the steam locos, but I do think a stay alive is necessary to keep the sound consistent when you're going over points and things. It really helps when you're going over points, because my diesels don't suffer as much because I've managed to fit stay alives in them. So yeah, thanks for watching. That concludes this video, and see you in the next one.